Boy, the way Glenn Miller played, songs that made the hit parade, guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days when girls were girls, men were men, and Archie Bunker was the undisputed king of his own castle, or at least the king of his favorite sagging armchair. Our story begins in the bustling, chaotic waiting room of Presbyterian Hospital, a place where nerves fry and identities get hilariously mixed up. Nurse Winslow is trying to manage a phone line that seems permanently tethered to her own dramatic personal life, gossiping wildly about her sister Bernice, who apparently has a hobby of rearranging furniture just to spite people. Enter Edith Bunker, breathless, confused, and desperately seeking her daughter Gloria Stivic, who is about to deliver her first child. Archie arrives shortly after, completely out of breath, having parked 3 blocks away because the hospital lot was overflowing like a grocery store on the eve of a blizzard. Archie claimed he was chased by a dog and had sticks thrown at him by neighborhood kids, arriving in full theatrical makeup because he had just come from a lodge minstrel show. He looked less like an expectant grandfather and more like a confused background actor who wandered off the set of a musical. The confusion only deepened when the frantic Bunkers realized the hospital records had no listing for a Stivic. Instead, the nurse found a reservation for a Gloria Stifford under the care of a Dr. Seymour Shapiro, prompting Archie to launch into a signature rant about why his daughter would be registered under a name that sounded like a brand of kosher hot dogs. After a series of upside-down glances at the admission charts and a few heated exchanges about whether a P stands for pest or nuts to you, they finally tracked down the right room. Inside, Gloria was tucked into bed, groggy from the anesthesia, while the surrounding atmosphere transformed into a comedy of errors. Michael the meathead Stivic finally arrived, looking anxious and instantly catching heat from his father-in-law for not being on time. Archie wondered aloud why Michael could manage to guide a pregnant wife to the hospital when he could barely get her out of a phone booth. Despite the bickering, the contractions were moving fast, coming every 5 minutes, then every 4 minutes, throwing the entire room into a panic. Michael tried to soothe the tension by suggesting they play 20 questions or time the contractions, while Dr. Shapiro tried to share juicy hospital gossip to distract everyone from the imminent medical miracle. Before long, the action shifted to Delivery Room B, where Gloria was instructed to inhale, exhale, and push like she was stepping on a car accelerator, an analogy she rejected because she did not drive. With one final monumental effort, the room-filled vacapte hat joy as the doctor announced the arrival of a healthy baby boy, leaving Archie utterly amazed that his son-in-law actually had it in him to produce a male heir. Archie rushed out to celebrate with his lodge brother Barney, handing out cigars and basking in the glorious reality of becoming a grandfather, even if he still owed Barney $1 for the celebratory kitty. Fast forward a couple of weeks and the scene changes to the Stivic household on a chaotic New Year Eve. The honeymoon phase of parenthood had firmly transitioned into the diaper-changing trenches. Michael and Gloria were attempting to navigate the delicate balance of a modern marriage partnership, which apparently involved intense arguments over whether a hibachi or a percolator made for a better wedding gift for their friends Al and Trudy. Michael prided himself on being a liberal, enlightened husband who Kanoeve kept exactly what his wife thought and felt after 6 years of marriage, a claim that naturally infuriated Gloria, who preferred to be asked rather than categorized. Their plans to attend Al and Trudy's wedding at a nearby hotel were thrown into absolute jeopardy when their eccentric babysitter, Mrs. Henshaw, showed up in full evening wear only to announce she was canceling. Her reason was that her 34-year-old son, Larry, was feeling depressed about being single on New Year Eve, so she was taking him to a church dance to find him a girlfriend. Desperate and stranded, Michael made the executive decision to host the entire wedding right there in their own living room, a solution that caused Gloria to explode because she was expected to run a wedding ceremony, care for a newborn, and get dressed all at the same time. The wedding party arrived in a whirlwind of winter coats and scotch on the rocks, transforming the tiny living room into an impromptu chapel. Among the guests were Al, Trudy, her airline stewardess sister Anita, and her brother Jack, along with a minister hired straight out of the Yellow Pages who looked like he arrived on a motorcycle. Mrs. Henshaw even returned, having been stood up by her own son, and happily requested a double zombie cocktail while volunteering to sing traditional wedding ballads. When the ceremony commenced, Michael stood as the best man, ready to read an inspirational quotation, only to find that Gloria had secretly switched his notes. Instead of his chosen text, he found himself reading the exact poetic verses about trees growing apart that they had used at their own wedding 6 years prior. It was a beautiful, slightly tense reminder of their ongoing marital power struggle, but it successfully bound Al and Trudy in holy matrimony just as the clock ticked toward midnight. Meanwhile, back at the bunker residence, a completely different kind of chaos was unfolding. Archie was left alone to babysit baby Joey, while Michael and Gloria finally managed a brief night out. Archie was incredibly nervous about the task, insisted that a teenager was unqualified to watch his grandson, and tried to grill the substitute babysitter, Sharon, on her knowledge of baby powder, pre-moistened toilettes, and baby oil. Things escalated when Sharon's boyfriend David showed up with a stack of rock records and a pack of cigarettes, leading Archie to suspect that the young anthropologists were turning his living room into a den of counterculture iniquity. Archie promptly took over the babysitting duties himself, dismissively sending the teenagers away, only to realize that managing a crying 3-week-old baby was far more difficult than playing a hand of poker. Desperate for backup, Archie invited his poker buddies, including Tiny, Kelsey, and Schwartz, over to the house, turning the nursery into a smoke-filled, coin-clinking gambling hall. The men bickered endlessly over why the baby was crying, with one suggesting they feed the infant beer and another insisting that a crying baby was like a nickel on the floor that just needed to be picked up. Archie firmly believed that picking up the child would only spoil him, but as the cries grew louder, he finally relented and attempted to administer a bottle. When that failed to soothe the kid, the poker crew concluded it was a diaper emergency. Refusing to play house, the friends made a quick exit, leaving Archie to face the dreaded diaper change entirely on his own. With a mixture of terror and grandfatherly devotion, Archie managed to tape on a fresh cloth, singing old lullabies and spinning a wildly inaccurate consolidated fairy tale involving the 3 little pigs, Goldilocks, and a wolf working for Walt Disney. By the time Michael and Gloria returned, Joey was fast asleep, and Archie was proudly acting as though he had single-handedly mastered the art of modern childcare. The final chapter of this neighborhood chronicle involves Archie's grand, ill-fated ambition to become an overnight millionaire. It all started when he invited Mr. Bernstein, the local watch repairman, over for a very specific segregated dinner. Archie had secretly withdrawn $1,000 from his savings account, which represented half of everything he and Edith owned, to invest in Bernstein's latest invention. To ensure the evening went perfectly, Archie bought specialty kosher delicacies from Greenberg's Deli, getting eyeball to eyeball with a flounder just to make his Jewish guest feel at home, while instructing Edith to keep the Gentile food strictly separate so nothing would lose its status. Edith was deeply skeptical, noting that she preferred their money to relax in the bank rather than work in risky ventures, but Archie was convinced that this invention would secure their future against any potential loading dock disasters. Mr. Bernstein arrived bearing a bottle of cherry herring wine and an absolute lack of financial credit from the major banking institutions. He proudly unveiled the prototype of the Bunker Bernstein remote-controlled doorbell ringer, a device intended to allow homeowners to ring their own doorbell from the comfort of their car during a rainstorm. The initial demonstration was a spectacular disaster. Every time Edith or Archie pressed the button, the device emitted a loud spark or accidentally triggered every single doorbell on the entire block. Archie's neighbors began calling in a panic, wondering why their homes were ringing in unison. Realizing the device required significantly more calibration, Bernstein selflessly tried to return the investment money, noting with a heavy dose of cultural humor that he was the schlemiel who spilled the soup, and Archie was the schlembuzzle who got it spilled on him. The excitement proved too much for the elderly inventor, who suffered a sudden spell of exhaustion, prompting Archie and Edith to tend to him with pillows, tea, and shots of cherry herring until the doctor arrived. As the evening wound down, Archie realized his dreams of immediate wealth had vanished into the cold night air, leaving him right back where he started, sitting in his favorite armchair, bickering with Edith, and realizing that those were and always would be the days. The baby shower takes place in a living room filled with wrapping paper, ribbons, and highly emotional pregnant women. Gloria is trying to put on a brave face, but her friends can see that she is miserable without her husband. Edith tries to bring some joy by reading a poem she wrote for the grandchild, which features multiple verses to cover every possible gender combination, including a touching stanza about how she does not know how to crochet a tree. The party is suddenly interrupted by Mike, who bursts through the door in a state of absolute hyperventilation and panic. He explains that he was at the basketball game when a loud announcement came over the loudspeaker paging a Dr. Shapiro. Even though there are millions of people named Shapiro in New York, Mike immediately assumed that his wife had gone into labor and that his specific doctor was being summoned to duty. Mike is breathing so fast that he looks like he needs a paper bag more than anyone else in the room. Gloria, seeing her husband genuine terror and love, immediately forgives him for the bedroom fight, and the couple shares a sweet reconciliation, with Mike admitting that he got so stressed at the game that he ate 6 pickles with his hot dog and thinks he is developing stretch marks of his own.